Good morning, everybody. Thanks for joining us today. So today, we usually do a class on this for the listing presentation, how to prepare for it, and then what to say and what questions to ask during the listing presentation when you're sitting down with the client. But sometimes I like to have a special guest. And I think it's important to see, for you guys to see all the different ways there are of doing listing presentations. And today, we have Maria Galindo. She's great. She's going to share what she does during her listing presentation and how she prepares for it. So let me just pull up her presentation here.
Is that the first thing?
Yes, that's the one.
Hey guys, so I'm a big fan of copy paste. So I believe in there's people that have done it before us that are very successful, and you just follow whatever they do, right? So I came from a big team. They taught us all these things, and of course, of learning and doing like the mirror and matching with people. It actually makes it to where you become successful by just following those footsteps, right? So big fan of copy paste. I like to kind of take things and make it my own, and everybody has a different personality. So even with listing presentations, it doesn't have to be like every single one is exactly the same, right? So for me, I tailored it to me and my personality, but there's other people that change it and make it a little bit different. But when I go to meet with a new client, I already know a little bit about them. I kind of stalk them a little bit on social media just to know who I'm going to be meeting with, right? Like for example, last week, we just met with somebody. This is my first commercial deal, and it was a doctor. And so for me to get familiarized with who she was and her personality, I went on her social media and I started looking through her reels and seeing her personality and seeing who she was, because then that tells me how I need to be, right? Like who am I going to be? Am I going to be like the, hey, let's go party guys? Or is it going to be more of like, hey, I'm going to follow these rules and stick to the slide kind of thing, right? So I do that all the time. But after I go and we book the appointment, I have a packet with me, and this packet is for that seller. So it's just basic. It's very simple packet, but what I bring with me, and Mary Block can help you guys with this. So it's basically a buyer seller guide to escrow, which Mary has a ton of. And so I got that from her, but on the team that I was at, they had this little thing and it was kind of cool. So for me, I like to be organized. And so I bring this with me and I give it to the seller, because then the seller has notes, right? Like they want to take notes. So I give them a little notepad with a pen. I show them like the brochures that are the flyers that I have for the other listings. So I'll have a few sample ones for them to see. And then a sheet where they have like for like prepping their home, right? So like if they don't know what to do before going to market, right? It tells them, okay, remove all your photos, clean this, do that, kind of just like a little like thing just to make it easy for them so that they're not stressed out about the situation and whatever it is that they're going through. So you try to make it as easy as possible. I do have a slide and I take this with me on my computer when I go to visit somebody. However, depending on the person that's in front of me, if they're an engineer, I'll go through it detailed, right? If they are somebody like me that my attention span is like this much, then I don't go detail, right? So it just really depends on who it is. And really the slides are more there just to kind of keep you on track, because you want to have a conversation with that person, right? So if I'm going through my presentation and then Carlos starts to yawn, I know he's bored. He doesn't want to hear what I'm saying.
I think he'll be tired.
Yeah, could be tired, but then it's almost like, okay, been there, done that. I've heard this from the other realtor that came, yesterday kind of thing, right? So you kind of want to watch what's going on in front of you, and that's what's going to help you get to that next, okay, they're going to be engaged with you.
So I had a question. You said that they probably heard this from the realtor that came before you.
Yeah.
So in most cases, is that the case where it's pretty much the same, almost the same presentation given by multiple realtors?
Yeah, they all go through the same. We all have the same comps. We all say, oh, the market is this, right? We all have the same thing that we kind of say. It just really depends on, hey, are you going to connect with that person or not? Are you going to give them what they're really looking for, right? And that's really at the end of the day, that's really what it is. Are you giving them what they're actually looking for? And so we ask them, like Janie and I will go and we'll ask, what is it that you're looking for in a realtor, right? Because it could be they say, oh, well, I'm looking for someone who's going to be honest with me, right? Or someone who is going to give me top dollar, or, I need someone who's a go-getter, or whatever it is, right? Like they'll tell you what they're looking for. And those are things that in between you kind of throw them out there, right? And like I said, like Janie and I, we don't go through the slides okay, I don't sit there and say, together, Janie and I have produced over, helped over 300 families, blah, blah, blah. I don't go detail like that where I'm reading it, because that's boring. They're not going to, they don't care, right? They care about what are you going to do for them? How are you going to help them get to that next level? You're the problem solver, right? They have a problem with, I don't know, maybe they're moving out of state. Maybe it was grandma's house. Maybe it was mom's house. They have a problem. We have to have a solution for it, and that's where you help them, right?
I don't like the fact you call it problem. I don't know if you there is any other word we can use.
You can use another word. I mean, you're not going to tell them, oh, what's your problem, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, I'm
You're
just
gonna
saying
say-
it because I'm trying to,
It could
the
be a
word the
situation.
problem, it's kind of
So it
It's
could be a
aggressive.
situation
Yeah,
where there's someone in their family passed, and then now they have to handle it, and they've never had to do this before, so they're relying on you and your guidance and your knowledge to help them through it.
So they have a situation,
situation.
a situation.
Yeah,
So you're going to help them with that situation and get them to that next step, right? So Janie and I talk about each other a little bit just so that people know who we are, right? So we say, I've been in the business for 8 years. I have 5 kids. She has 3. She's been in the business for 20 years. Together, we've sold X amount of homes, right? You just kind of say, oh, well, this is what I do, right? Because at the end of the day, they want to know that you are productive and that you are in that industry, right? And you know what you're doing. Next, we talk about kind of full service, right? You want to be that full service agent, someone that's going to help them with a little bit of everything, right? So you're not just a realtor, you're actually a psychologist, you're, the cleaner, you're the gardener, whatever, you're everything, right? And when you make it easy for that person, they're going to say, oh my gosh, that was so easy. Even though we had these little bumps in the road, that was easy. And they're going to refer you to their people and they're going to say, hey, she was great. She helped me find a contractor, a handyman, a window cleaner, whatever it is. She had that for me. I didn't have to go look for it, right? We like to use our resources. So from start to finish, mortgage servicers. I have a lender. I'm like, hey, you have a problem? Oh yeah, they're like, well, we want to go buy another house, right? Then you say, oh, well, I've got the perfect lender. He's really good. He'll help you with this, this, and that, whatever it is, right? So you have that there. Title services, what if there's an encumbrance or whatever it is? Then you go and you can say, hey, Mary, can you help me? There's a problem with title, or there's 3 people on title. How do we do this? Right? You have those resources. Warranty, I don't know if you guys have someone for home warranty, but yeah, so someone like that you can kind of talk to and you just say, well, as you're going through the whole process, there will be the buyer that will ask for home warranty. This is what this does and this is how that will help you. And insurance services, especially right now, because there's so much going on with like insurances, fire insurance, wherever you're at. It's just all of those things are a little difficult. So you connect with somebody, that's a fire insurance guy, and you're like, hey, I have this question for you. Can you help me with this? Right? Or you kind of understand, like, oh yeah, like you're in a fire zone. I'm going to refer you to this person because this one is better than that one, or whatever it is, right? But at least you have those resources. So you become that person of knowledge because you have everything. And it's not like, oh, well, I'm going to go and talk to someone and say, oh, no, I can help you here. Let me refer this person to you, right? Because then what happens for you guys at the end, let's say, for example, my insurance guy says, hey, they were actually talking to another realtor. And I don't know this, right? And because you're so connected with these people, they tell you like, hey, you need to watch out for that one, or you gotta, they mentioned this. And then for me, it makes me look good if I know what they have an issue with and I'm able to help them with it without them telling me, right?
Another question, so your vendor list, you said you have window cleaner, you have handyman, you have all these people. How did you compile that list and how long, I mean, is it from personal experience or working with them, or were there referrals or?
It's a little bit of everything. So like my handyman was actually my renter. And so for me, it's creating that like little network, right? And that connection with the people that you sell to, right? And so it's referrals, it's people that have worked on my house, it's people that have worked with my other clients that I know have really nice houses, or just anywhere. Or you talk to other agents and they're like, hey, this guy's really good, you should use him for your window cleaning or whatever it is. But you kind of share that around and then you keep it, right? Because then you never know when you'll need it. And it's cool to have like everywhere, right? So like I have a handyman that does all of San Bernardino County. And then I have a handyman that will go to Riverside, but won't go to LA, right? So like you have that just in case you have a home out somewhere and you're not like familiar with that specific area. Okay.
Before you move on, I just want to say one of the coolest things we've talked about and you've showed me, like when we're door knocking, she'll like walk right up to gardeners and just be like, hey, what's going on? Like, do you know anybody who's looking to buy, sell, or invest? And a lot of times, like the gardener will have information like, oh yeah, this family, like they're getting ready to, like it's just, again, attributes to that whole.
They know who's
network.
selling, who's
Yeah.
not selling.
Yeah.
Like you go door knocking, like you go anywhere door knocking. And there was one that I was like, hey, I'm just like, my client is looking for a specific home. We can't find it, whatever. Like, I'm just like seeing if anybody knows. The guy's like, well, actually, his mom just died. That house might go on the market soon.
Yeah.
Right? So things like that, like you just talk to everybody. And it doesn't have to come off like salesy or pitchy. Like you're just having a conversation. And if it goes somewhere, it goes somewhere. And if it doesn't, you didn't lose anything, right? You just gained a new friend. That's it. Then after talking to them about like your resources and stuff like that, I always talk about the company, right? Because the company is a big deal. There's realtors, my neighbor across the street's a realtor, like everywhere you go, like everybody's a realtor. As far as like a good realtor, practicing realtor, whatever it is, there's always going to be someone there. But when you talk about the brand, right, like Coldwell Banker, everybody knows Coldwell Banker, right? So always talk about the brand and what they do and what it means to you, right? I talk about how it's global, right? Like Coldwell Banker, you go anywhere, there's 100,000 agents that, like, let's say, for example, they're moving out of state, right? You can refer them to somebody, which is actually really cool because if you have somebody, and there was a time where everybody was leaving California. And so I had a lot of my clients go to Texas. So I went on a referral network and I found a lot of agents out in Texas. And I'm like, hey, I'm gonna refer you my California client, 25% referral fee. So then I get paid for doing nothing, but I went and I searched out a good agent for my client, right? So then you all of a sudden start getting these checks for just referring your people out. They're gonna go find a realtor, why not like find them a good realtor, someone that you know will connect with that person, and then you get paid for it, right? So that's huge.
You went on the Coldwell Banker like network,
Yeah.
find a realtor?
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah, and like Facebook has referral networks. I coach with Tom Ferry, and Tom Ferry also has like a Tom Ferry like referral network. But anywhere, I mean, you just go and you look for whatever state that your people are going to, and then you say, hey, I have a referral. I have a client right now who's moving to California from Washington, and I referred them an agent to sell that house so that they can come and buy here. You know, and that's 25%. Right? And it doesn't cost you anything. It's just kind of researching and making sure that you're finding the good agent. 'Cause then you don't want them to get mad at you if it's not a good agent. Obviously, you're going to talk to them about like their online exposure, right? How are you going to market their property? Obviously, with Coldwell Banker, it'll be on the website. You guys get the emails, right? Like you get the emails where, hey, we have a new listing, or you know, like Carlos sends them out all the time. But you're going to market their property, and you can go through and kind of read it, or like learn the slides before you go. Don't practice on your people. Because when you practice on them, they're gonna know that you're practicing, or it's your first time or whatever. But definitely practice your slides before going. I always say, you know, we have a lot of marketing. We're gonna help you with like, we do advertising, we do agent promotion. I have a lot of agents that are on my social media that can refer you a buyer, because you know we're very high on social media. We do open houses, everything. So this is more just to kind of give you, like I said, a little bit of an idea to like stay on track with what you're talking to your seller about. Then we say positioning your property. So this is where I would actually pull out my little sheet that says, okay, well, this is like your checklist, right? What you're gonna do here is you're gonna position your property for our photos so that your property is something that I, as a buyer, can walk into and picture myself living in. If I see a lot of photos of me and my wedding, then you're going to picture that family in that house, right? So I always tell my sellers, try to declutter as much as possible and don't make it personal. Professional photos, super, super important. Don't take photos on your iPhone. It doesn't look good. And if you've got the best iPhone, it still doesn't look good. It's professional photos. It's gonna cost you a little. But I have referral for photos as well. I have actually two, one where I use like my higher end houses, and then one where it's like, it's a condo. It's still a house. Okay, I'm not saying it's bad. But you're not gonna pay the luxury price of a luxury photographer for a smaller condo, right? So there's different photographers for that, and I can share that information with you guys if you'd like. And then we always say, obviously, home buyers are gonna come from the internet, right? So like everybody is online, they're on Zillow, they're on Trulia. They have an agent that they work with, they're on the MLS, they're on a portal, right? Then social media. I'm gonna put your property on social media. I do reels. I will like go to the house, and Janie and I will do something funny in the house, whatever it is, right? Anything that you can do to like show off that house, or say, hey, this house is coming soon, you know, just basic, very simple. It doesn't have to be this whole like movie, right? It can just be something super simple that you can just say, hey, I just went to 123 Main Street and they're going to be selling this house, look for it in the next 2 weeks. Or it's a 2-bedroom, 3-bath, whatever it is. Even your leases, you know, like even if like you have a rental property, like I have a studio coming up and it's in Anaheim, And I'm gonna go and shoot a little reel there, just to put it up so that people know, obviously, one, your family, your friends, people on your social media know like, hey, they do real estate. It's not just eating and drinking all the time, right? Email marketing, I use MailChimp, I think a lot of us use the MailChimp. It's free for, if you have under 500 emails, you can use it for free. You don't have to pay for it. And you put your contacts in there and you email them whatever, right? You can email them your listing. You can email them like information about you, like newsletters, whatever it is that you have, you can email it to your contacts. But I tell them that we email to everybody at Coldwell Banker, so that they have the exposure. Then the brochures, right? Brochures are super important. That's why I have them in the packet and I show them, this is your brochure. This is what it's gonna look like when I go to sell your home, right? So we have these brochures, we have them at the open house. And then they know, obviously, they're not like this, they're nicer. But we have the brochures for our people that are coming through the open house. Direct mail marketing. So I door knock, I like door knocking. Good exercise, you get to meet the neighbors and you're not selling. I hate selling, okay, but I'm good at sales. But what you do is you just go and you invite them. Hey, Carlos, I'm actually having an open house this weekend at 123 Main Street. I'd love for you to come. I know you're one of the neighbors. I don't know if you know anybody that's looking to move into the neighborhood, right? I'm just inviting him to my open house. I'm not saying, hey, do you want to buy a house from me, right? Invite them to open house. A lot of agents do, I haven't done, but a lot of agents do like a 30-minute, like, hey, all the neighbors come to the neighborhood open house 30 minutes prior to the open house. I just feel like, you know what, just invite everybody at the same time because then it looks like it's a lot of people, you're creating that urgency and they're all there, right? But yeah, you're not selling anything by just going and inviting people to your open house. Even if you do it like the day before, you're like, hey, I'm gonna have an open house tomorrow. I'll be there Saturday, Sunday, whatever. I'll have snacks, or I have a coffee bar, whatever it is. But at least you're just inviting, you're not selling anything.
Sorry, can I ask, is that the only time you door knock, or do you?
No, so with door knocking, I'll do like prior to open house. And then I'll do like, hey, our property's in escrow. Like, so like we got an offer, our property's in escrow, and then they'll ask, they're curious, right? Because they want to know what the value is of their home. Oh, well, what did you get? Well, I can't tell you yet, but I promise I'll be back, right? And then you go back when it closes. Oh my gosh, your neighbor's house sold for 1.3 million, right? And then that's it. But they know you because you've been to their house already 3-4 times.
So you're just going to tease them is what you're doing.
That's it. That's it. That's it. But then they're waiting for you next time. They're not gonna shut the door on you. Yeah. But it's keeping it going. And I will tell you, it's been so many times that sometimes I'm like, gosh, I really don't want to go. It's gloomy outside, or it's too hot, or I'd rather go and eat, kind of thing. But it's those times that I'm like, I'm glad I went, because it'll either bring somebody to the open house that I'm like working on, we try to work on because it's like, oh, a year out, 2 years out. But there are things that come into fruition, like after like just you talking to people, right? And I will tell you, perfect example, there was one little area, it was like a little townhome area, and I door knocked. And I'm like, hey, I'm hosting the open house. The house didn't sell. Hey, I'm hosting an open house again, right? Come over, come check it out, whatever. There's this family that comes in and they're like, oh yeah, we saw your sign last time you dropped it off at our house. We were not home. I'm glad you did the open house today, blah, blah, blah. We're looking to sell our house. And the house was literally right around the corner. I already knew the market. I already knew what was going on in that neighborhood. I knew everything. So for me, it was easy to get into that house, to sell that house. And then this one already sold, right? So then it's just, you just keep going. And when you have that momentum, you keep it going, right? So, oh, that house already sold. Okay, well, now I've sold 2 of your neighbors' houses, right? And so you're not selling, you're just telling them what has happened in that house, right? And that happened to me, I want to say twice, and it was one of those, gosh, I don't want to go, right? But I ended up going and it was worth it. I always tell them 90% of buyers rely on agents. 'Cause a lot of people think, oh, I'm just gonna go to the listing agent and just show up and whatever, right? But we say they still rely on you, right? Because at the end of the day, they can't do everything that we do, right? A lot of people think, oh, you're just a door opener. No, I'm really not. You provide that value, right? And that service. Then when your buyer sees that and your seller sees that, then that's huge because then that's when the referrals start to come in. So I tell them, it's great to have an open house because then there's some people that are private and they're like, oh, I don't want people walking through my house, right? Or I have so many nice things. What do I do with my stuff, right? Well, they have to lock it up. So I always tell them, you want to lock up your stuff, even though there's going to be 2 of us here, or 1, depending on how big the house is, you want to make sure that you put your stuff away. Some people say, well, I really don't want to have an open house. I'm like, well, you don't have to. However, you do have to be open to people coming through because how am I going to showcase your home? So I would say 50% of buyers come through the open house, right? And the rest of them come through with another agent. They'll come through, obviously during COVID, we had a lot of virtual open houses, but maybe there's somebody that's in the Bay Area that's looking to move into Orange County because we're so cheap, right? So there's a lot of that, right? So they'll come this way and they need the virtual because they're not going to drive 6 hours to get here. Private showings, and then obviously the traditional open house. But it's always something that you're going to need that agent. Then I get into the fun stuff, right? Okay, what's your home worth, right? Because sellers already have a number. And so I always want them to tell me the number before I say something, because if they tell you, then if you're like, okay, I'm quite there, or like, oh shoot, we're like completely off. This guy's nuts, right? We actually had one. Janie and I went to a listing, and so we're like, okay, so what do you think your home's worth? Seeing the market and seeing everything that's going on right now. He's like, well, I feel like it's 1.1. Well, it was really 900, right? But they feel 1.1. So you're not going to say, oh, you suck. Like you're not going to get that. Yeah, right. But this is where you say, okay, well, when you price your home, let's say 15% over market value, you're going to get 20% of those buyers that are going to come through, right? If you price it maybe 5% over market value, 50%. But if you price it right at like a current market value, depending on the market, right, then you're going to get 95% of the buyers to come through, right? So basically, don't overprice the listing. If this person says, like this guy that said he wanted 1.1 and our comps only showed 899 to 900, the highest is 925. We didn't say, oh, no, we're not going to do that. But we did say, well, that's a little higher, right, on the price of what we have. Let me show you my comps. So then we go into the comparable sales.
Do you ever ask them how they came up with that price?
Yeah, he's like, no, well, I feel that nothing else is sold in this area in the last, 5 years. And, I put in new floors and I did the kitchen and that kind of thing. So they'll go into it and tell us, and we're like, oh, that's great. Yeah, your house is amazing, right? You're not going to say, oh my gosh, those floors were put in like 10 years ago, right? But we do, we'll acknowledge whatever it is that they say, but the facts are there, right? So you're going to show them the comps. Okay, well, this one's model matched to your house and this one sold for 900, right? We leave the comps there and then we go into like negotiation strategies, right? So right now, because of like this market change where it's no longer like that seller's market, it's kind of going into that buyer's market, negotiation is huge. So with a lot of the sellers, they're open to giving credits, right? And also because these rates are so high, people are used to like, oh, well, what happened to the 5 or what happened to the 6? Now they're in the 7s, right? But when you have a good lender, and that's where like you need to like have your little like network of people. When you have a good lender, a lender will tell you, so like my lender will tell me, hey, Maria, so if you want to get them at a better rate so that they're comfortable with their monthly payment, I need you to ask the seller for $25,000 for closing costs or for a buy down of a rate or whatever it is. So we tell the seller, you need to be open to that, right? Because a lot of these people, they cannot afford the house that you're selling. You know, the only way to be able to afford that house is by you offering this credit for them to buy down the rate so that they can buy your house. And the majority of the time, they're pretty open to it. Some are like, okay, well, you know, how does that make sense for a seller? Well, one, they'll sell their house, right? If they're in a hurry, if they got things to do, if they're moving out, whatever it is, they'll sell the house. But let's say, for example, the house is 1-1, right? And my buyer needs to go in there and buy that house or wants that house, but can't do it because of this rate. Then I'll say, okay, I'm gonna offer you 1,130, but I need you to give me the 30,000 back. The seller is still netting the same, right? But you're helping that buyer by getting that buy down, and then everybody's happy. Everybody gets whatever they're looking for.
And you get a higher commission.
Yes. I mean, just by a little bit, but yes. And then that's it. Then, you know, obviously we make it easy even after the transition of when they're done with all of the negotiations and getting into like, okay, now you have to move, right? Because those are all things that you need to help with. Like we help with like, okay, so what's your timeline? If they're buying another house as a seller, you want to be able to make sure that that timeline works, right? Where they're selling the house, they have to move out, but now they have to move into this other house. So all of those transitions have to be smooth for you to be able to help them get to that next level. And so, yeah, that's how we do it. It's really just mirror matching that person, the person in front of you, right? A lot of the deals that we get are from referrals, past clients, and door knocking, open houses, even leases, right? A lot of people shy away from like the leases and oh, I'm not gonna do that, $2,000, yeah, right, I'm like, that's gas money. But that lease, that renter turns into a buyer. I'm gonna say my highest at 3 million was a renter, and he's bought 2 homes from me. One on the lake and then another one in Yorba Linda. So you don't want to shy away from anybody because they turn into sellers. And even your buyers, you know, as you're starting off, you've got these buyers and then you're like, oh my gosh, that was like so insane. That deal was like crazy, whatever it is. Still keep it in your pocket and continue to connect with those people because those buyers turn into sellers. They could be like a couple that just bought a condo and now they have kids. They need to move into a bigger house because now schools are important. They need more rooms. Or, you know, mom and dad came to live with them and now they need a bedroom downstairs, right? Then they're sellers because they have to sell this to buy another.
So question, so you went through the actual presentation where you're sitting down with them, like with the seller and going through what you can offer them and how much their home is worth and everything, how you're gonna market the property. What about the steps from when you first knock on the door and then like, when you get to the presentation, like do you, like you introduce yourself for the first time, do you say, hey, give me a tour of your home, give me the upgrades, what are the upgrades, and then sit down? Or do you sit down and talk to them and then say, oh, would you like to show me your home? Or how does it, what's the flow like?
So once again, you have to know who your people are, right? So
And,
like,
then,
let's say,
and does it stay the same or does it
No,
change
it
depending on the
changes.
person?
Changes all the time. So if I walk in and I know they have kids, I'm going to acknowledge the kids. Okay, so you acknowledge the kids, the dog, whatever, right? Because then they're like, oh, they're kind of cool with like my animal, whatever, right? So I walk in, if I see that they're not wearing shoes, I instantly start taking my shoes off. they can tell me, oh, no, don't worry about it, it's okay. But I will take off my shoes out of respect because we don't know, right? So I do that. Once I greet them, I'm like, well, show me around your house, right? And so then they tour me around the house. Let them talk, because if you're the one that's talking, you're talking too much. You will not know anything about them. You let them talk, you're gonna find out so much stuff, and that's gonna guide you through your presentation. Because it could be that you don't want to hear about my comps because you already know, right? You want to talk to me about your military service. I'm there for that, right? I'm okay with that because once again, everybody is different. And so if you're walking around and this guy is like old military vet and he just wants to talk to you about World War II, and he wants to sell his house because he's out of here, listen, pay attention, because they like that. And they're bored, right? But they're gonna sell their house and they're gonna refer you to the next person. So yeah, it's always different. It's always different. It's just, but once again, I walk in and if there's little ones or dogs or cats, I acknowledge it. Even though I'm like, ugh, or it smells or whatever, right? You still acknowledge it because they see that. They see that you're not just there to sell their house, you're human, right? You're a person just like them. They don't want the, Thai salesman-ish kind of thing, right? They want someone who's like chill and like, okay, you know your stuff, you're here to help me, you're gonna help me find a solution or a solution, right, to my situation. And that's it. Yeah,
Do you take a listing contract with you?
100%. Always take a blank listing contract with you because they can say, okay, what do I do next? And that's the easiest because you're like, well, you sign right here, right? But if they're like, oh, let me think about it, like this guy that was 1.1, he's like, okay, well, thank you so much. You guys have shared like amazing information and all that. He's like, let me think about it. You guys are my first that I'm interviewing. I've got another two. And so then I said, well, let me ask you this. Is there anything that we didn't go over that you are looking for? And they're like, no, or, oh yeah, you forgot to mention this or whatever, right? And then I always say, can I follow up? When can I follow up? Right? Because you're leaving that open. You're not saying, oh, can I call you? Yes or no? No, when can I follow up? Is it okay for me to call you, next week, Monday? Or when do you feel that you're gonna make that decision, right? And it's just, you're leaving it kind of open-ended, but you're saying, hey, I'm gonna call you to ask you if you're going to list with me or, you choose somebody else. And I would say, regardless of what you do, before you make any decisions, call me and ask me whatever it is that I didn't answer.
So another question, have you ever been to a listing presentation or listing appointment where the homeowner just was talking about their family and about their military experience or whatever it is, and you listened and you built the rapport, and then they just went straight to, so, I like you, how much you think we can list it for? Okay, where do I sign? Where you don't even have to go through any of this.
Yeah, so there was one guy, and actually that one was really cool. So he called me and I thought it was weird, right? Because like when people just call you, it's just weird. I don't know, I feel like it's weird. He's like, hey, my name is Robert, I want to sell my house. And I'm like, okay, Robert. I go, how did you hear about me? He's like, oh, he goes, I just looked you up. And I'm like, okay. And so I thought it was weird. So I always have this safe thing. So I'll text Janie or like another friend or like a group chat. I'm like, hey, I'm gonna be at this address. If I don't text you guys or call you within the hour, text me or call me, right? Like something's weird going on. But this dude was just this Hispanic guy. I think he saw my Hispanic face, right? That was it. And he called me and he's like, I just want to deal with someone who has the same beliefs as me. So I'm like, I don't know what your beliefs are, right? But it doesn't matter. So I walk in, I had the whole presentation. He's like, let's cut the bullshit. He's like, come follow me. And so I'm going through and he's telling me he's actually a biker. like all these tats everywhere, like he just looked hard, right? So I was really scared, but I was like walking in, I'm like, oh my gosh, what a nice house, oh my gosh, whatever. And so he's got a picture of his cat. I go, oh my gosh, you have a cat. He's like, yeah, his name is blah, blah, blah. I go, oh, I have 3 cats. And so like, we're talking like that. And he's like, all right, he goes, how much do you think I can sell this thing for? Because I'm done with California. I'm moving to Mexico. He's like, I'm buying a ranch. I'm selling this thing and whatever. I'm like, okay. So he goes, how much? I go, I think here's my comps, whatever. He goes, I am okay with anywhere between 600 and 630. My comps were 615. So we sold the house for 625. He bought his ranch and he sends me pictures all the time of his 9-acre ranch in Mexico with fruit trees everywhere. I'm so jealous. But yeah, it was very easy. He's like, where do I sign? I said, here, you can do this, or I can send it to you via DocuSign, because some people don't want to write. Like, they're like, oh, just send it to me via DocuSign. Very, very simple.
Question, have you ever run into any issue regarding commission, like buyer or seller, like?
Oh, yeah, there was one lady who talked to me about the commission, and so we said, oh, it's 2.5%, right? So it's gonna be 5%, 2.5 for the seller, 2.5 for the buyer, whoever's bringing that in. Well, she's like, well, because I already sold with you, she's like, can you go down lower? She's like, I only want to pay you 1%. And I said, well, I go, you can do that. However, we cannot work. Like, so for me, if it's a repeat client that I know is like good and that's going to be okay, and that is not as needy and like pushy, I'm okay with lowering my commission because I know I'll get more and she has referrals, right? So like for me, I'm like, you cannot like deviate from the commission of the buyer agent because that's where you're going to lose buyers, right? It's just, I mean, they're facts. I'm only stating facts. But I told her not 1%. I said, I'll take 1.5 because I have all these other fees I have to pay, but I go into like the, hey, it doesn't all go to me, right? So I'll say, I work with Jeannie and then we have like office fees and all these other things that we have to pay for. And sometimes when you talk about that and then you talk about your children, and I've got 5, so that's a lot of money. So, you talk about that, then they're like, oh, you know what, don't worry about it, right? And I really, super rare does it happen that like I have to lower the commission. I think the last one was just 1.5, but I've never done anything since then. It was one lady, it was a triplex, and she had already sold 2 houses with me.
Yeah, and sometimes there's people who want.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, cool.
So the key is tell people you have 5 kids.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah. But it's really, and then really important, don't just sell that house and forget about these people, right? Don't forget about them because they will become like your besties and they're your cheerleaders because they're the ones that are gonna be like, oh, hey, my neighbor, she hates her realtor and like she's looking for someone else. Or, hey, my sister-in-law, you don't even know how many times, like, so I have this little like group. I helped one guy, he's an engineer, and engineers are very, everything is like methodical. There is like a checkbox thing. Yes, numbers. But I get along really well with that, right? So I have this one group and he has referred me 7 or 8 of his people, like his friends, his coworkers, stuff like that. I just recently went to a housewarming party with one of the guys that he referred. Literally, kid you not, but out of everybody in the housewarming party, I had sold 4 houses of the people that were there. And then there were another 2 that they were like, hey, this is our realtor, like you need to call her, right? And so right now I'm working with 2 of them. So it's just stay connected with those people and whatever, hey, they'll text me, hey, Maria, I'm looking for a new gardener, I'm looking for a handyman, or hey, do you know who puts like flooring, or where can I buy, like carnitas, whatever, it's like, where can I get this, like whatever it is. If I don't know, I'm like, oh, hang on a second. I will Google that shit or like look or call somebody. Hey, where can I get XYZ? Right? And then,
Mary's a good resource.
yeah, and Mary, I call Mary all the time. I called her one day, I put her on the spot, I go, hey, how do I do this, like transfer of deed, whatever, and then so I go, I have them here, you're on speakerphone, and then she talks, right? But then you look so good because you got that connection like that, right? So
Has that helped you during the listing presentation?
100%. I'm like, oh, let me talk to my title rep. We'll get you going with that. Or if I have people that are like, oh, well, there's 3 people on title. How do I do that? There's a trust, there's a trustee. Who is it that does this? I'm like, I'll get you those answers. I said, and then we'll figure out how you're going to purchase your next property, if you should purchase it in the trust or not in the trust, or as an individual, or all 3 of you together. But let me get that information for you, right? You also don't want to bombard them at that moment. But then you go and you ask, hey, how should I do this? Or how would it be better to work this out so that they look good and they do the right thing? But yeah,
I have a couple of questions.
sure.
So the first one is, when you're doing a listing presentation and you know there's going to be other people coming, how typically have you got into that position? So I can understand if you already had a relationship with someone you've been referred, it's probably just going to be you. What's the scenario where you might be effectively auditioning for that?
So I've had one where literally as we're leaving, the other realtor's coming in. I'm like, we got this. I'm like, slam dunk, I know what that is. But it's happened a few times where like my client will be like, I'm so sorry, but my dad wanted me to talk to so-and-so because he's the area expert, right? So there's been those situations. I don't really get like, oh, I'm gonna lose, right? Like, because for me, at the end of the day, if it happens, it happens. And if I'm gonna be your realtor, like you're going to trust me, I'm gonna trust you, right? But if you don't trust me, then how do you expect me to do a good job, right? So for me, I don't take all listings. Like if I know that we are not a connection, I'm not gonna say, oh, I want this because I need that commission check. Because at the end of the day, that listing is gonna be the worst listing you have. Because you're gonna have to prove yourself 100% every single day. And so I don't do that. If I don't feel there's a connection, I will either bring someone else in. I'll say, oh, this is my colleague, right? And they're gonna take over, they're gonna help us with whatever, right? Or I'll just, you know what, we're gonna let that one go. And we're just not compatible.
So the shitty listings for people like me, then, is what you're saying.
If you want them, just extra work.
The other question I had was, so you work with Janie,
Uh-huh.
do you think that there's an advantage when you're talking to people to working as a small team rather than working on your own?
So so the way Janie and I work, we kind of work on our own. Like she has her own deals, I have my own deals. But if I feel that it's someone who's a little needy, I will say, hey, this is my business partner, right? And that's only because what I say is I'm like, if I'm sick or I can't make it to that listing that you really, really want, Janie will go show you, right? But it doesn't necessarily mean that Janie's going to be part of the transaction the whole time. So I just say, you know, and even with you guys that it's only you can say, you know, I work in an office where there's over 25 agents. And so we all work really well together. Should I not be available one day, then I have my colleague that can jump in. Or if I'm sick or whatever it may be, right? You don't.
For language
Yeah.
purposes. as
So
well,
I speak
sometimes.
Spanish and
Yeah.
English, Janie speaks Vietnamese.
Yeah.
If I have a Vietnamese client and they're really, really like English is not so good, then Janie will help, right? But it's not a necessary like all the time kind of thing. But sometimes people are like, oh, a solo agent, right? Like, how are they gonna do all this and like whatever? And I just say, you know what? I have all these agents that I work with that are really, really good, right? Like this lady that we just met, commercial. I called Steve, so I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Like, I'm like, commercial, yeah, let's do it. You know, Jamie's like, no, probably not. I'm like, no, let's do it. I'm curious because I want to learn, but I'm gonna go ask the top dog, right? I'm gonna ask the top dog, and I'm gonna be like, hey, help me out. What does this mean? How do I do this? What is an LOI? What is that, right? You learn from other people, and people that have been in this industry for a long time, they're willing to help. They're, because like, we were there once, like I was there once, like, I didn't know what I was doing. And so people were willing to help me. I'm willing to help other people. Yeah, so we went to Steve and we're like, hey, I need your help. And then he's like, I know, because this lady wants this specific location. He's like, I know the owner. I'm like, perfect, we're done, right? So it makes it easy, but you just, once again, you have to talk to people. Don't be afraid to talk. Yeah, connect.
How did you get your first listing?
It was the courier. I was a receptionist. I would sit at my desk and the courier would bring in the checks, commission checks. And so I was studying to get my real estate license. This is 2017, studying to get my real estate license. I'm like, hey, how are you? He's like, I'm good. I go, hey, we have donuts. Would you like some donuts? And he's like, sure. And he started getting his donuts. He's like, and then he'd come in, like every day he came in to drop off checks, whatever. And then he's like, oh, he goes, do you sell? I go, no, I'm just the receptionist. And then he's like, you're not just the receptionist. I'm like, well, I'm studying to get my license. So when you're ready, you call me. I go, I'll be here. And he laughed. But then he said, the following day or following week or whatever, he comes in, he's like, hey, Maria, he's like, remember when you told me, he's like, do you have your license yet? I go, actually, I just got it. And then he's like, I have a house to sell, but I need to buy another. He sold his house in Santa Ana, and this is Mary's courier, by the way, she'll tell you the story too. Sold his house in Santa Ana, bought one in Ontario. I was the agent for both. So I was just talking to somebody. That was my first.
Be nice and.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want a donut? It's,
Did you have to do a listing presentation for him, or you just sat down and just went over the numbers?
I still did the listing presentation because even if it's your client that.
That was your first one then?
That was my first one. And I was so nervous and I was like shaking. I was like, oh my gosh, I better do this like the right way, right? So I went and I had my flyers, I had everything and I was prepared. And we sit down and then I'm going over the things with him and he's like, just be honest with me. He's like, how much do you think I can sell this for? He's like, I just want to get out. I just want to get out. And so I said, okay, well, I think it was 540 back then. 540, we sold it. I represented the buyer as well, only because they walked in through the open house, right? And so that it just made life easy for everybody. But out of that one courier, I got 3 deals. So it's just talk to people. But yeah, we went through the presentation. So even if it is your past client, even if it is a friend of yours, you still want to have that presentation because you want to still be that professional, right? You still want to be like, hey, dude, like, even if it is my friend, hey, dude, like, I got all this stuff because I want you to know what this is, right? We're cool, whatever, and we hang out and drink and like go have fun, but business is business, and this is what I'm gonna do to sell your house. And then we move on to the next. And they respect you for it because at the end of the day, they're your friends, but they're still like, you're still being professional with their business.
I think in situations like that, when you're talking to your friends, they see you on an everyday basis and how you are at home and whatever, right? And then when you start to talk shop, you really get into it because you know your stuff. They see a different side of you. They're like, whoa, I didn't know you knew this stuff. Or like, wow, I'm impressed by it because you don't normally talk like that.
Yeah, because you're like, yeah.
And that we're in my world now.
There's a tequila shop, like, but no, it's not. You know what you're talking about, right? You know what you're talking about, and you're being professional and respectful at the same time. And at the end of the day, they're paying you, right? So I don't discount my friends, by the way. I still charge them the full commission because it's a service. And I'm gonna be here for you. You know that I'm gonna do the right thing for you, right? But I still need to feed those five
If you're
children.
willing to pay a stranger,
Yeah.
another agent, why wouldn't you pay
You're
your friend?
supporting a small business, right? Yeah.
typically like how like long are your presentations? Like how do you prepare before? So it's like not you like probably offering so much information, or maybe like is it different? Like also allowing them to have time to speak. Like how do you like prepare that?
So presentation probably about an hour, no more than an hour unless they're the ones talking.
And that includes a tour?
Yeah, that includes a tour. I mean, if it's a giant house, then obviously it's gonna take longer, but I would say no more than an hour of you just talking. And I don't sit there and talk about myself and gloat myself because they've already researched you. They already know who you are, right? You can talk about how many homes you've sold, like, we have sold about 300 plus homes, and we do have all of those clients. And there's still clients that we talk to now. But yeah, I don't take more than an hour because one, you're being respectful of their time as well. And then when you get to the point, it's you're either selling the house, not, or you're, scheduled to come back for a second interview.
So, what's the ratio of you doing the presentation and you actually getting it?
My ratio is actually pretty good. It's 80%.
It would be.
Only because once again, I don't take all listings because for me, if we don't have a connection, I'm not going to do you a disservice. I'd rather refer it over and be like, hey, 25%. And then I'm not doing all the work because I know that you and I don't connect, right? So I'd rather someone else do it.
Do you have most people sign on the spot or do you have to follow?
Yeah, a lot sign on the spot, or I say I'll send you the DocuSign, and I don't pressure. I feel that when you pressure, people will, like, they're gonna cancel on you anyways, like if you pressure them to sign, they're gonna be like, what did I just do? Right? And so I'll have the paperwork, and if they're ready to sign, I've got a pen, right? But if not, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it. If I know that they're in a hurry or that, like, you see that they're frazzled and like the kids are getting out of school or they keep looking at their watch, or you have to check the body language, right? If you know that they're like, oh my gosh, I got this job, or whatever, or their house is a hot mess, then you're like, oh, I'll just DocuSign it to you. Right? Because then it's easy. You just made it so much easy. And honestly, when you go click, 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 you're not reading any of it, right? You already sent them the PDF version ahead of time for them to review. And then you send it through DocuSign, give them a little text. Hey, I sent the agreement for you via DocuSign, but I also sent you a PDF version so that you can read it prior. And then they sign it. You get that and you're done.
If the house is maybe in a rough shape, do you give them recommendations in the listing presentation, like maybe a fresh coat of paint would help or new carpets or something
I
like that?
do, but if they're the kind that are like, let's say they're 80, I'm not gonna tell them go remove the carpet or paint or whatever. I'll go in there and I'll help them. I'll say, hey, you know what, do you mind if I come in and I help you do a little bit of declutter and light staging? Like, I like to do light staging. Mike knows, like, I went to his house to light stage it. Because I was like, dude, this is not so good of a listing here, let's fix this. But it's just a suggestion, right? If they say, no, I don't want to do anything, just sell it, then you're like, okay, right? But then when you host your open house, then you're like, hey, like, oh, it's a great home, blah, 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 whatever, the school's great, yada, yada. I know the floors are not so great, however, ask for a credit. Right? You can talk to the seller, or I'll talk to the seller about it. They're aware that it's in not so great condition, right? Just easy stuff like that. But there are people that will ask you, hey, what should I do? And then I'm like, okay, we need to get rid of the purple room, right? Paint it white. Nobody likes the purple room, right? Yeah. So, I mean, you can make suggestions, and giving that little checklist actually gives them a lot of suggestions. So you're not saying it, you're not offending, right? Oh, here's a checklist, just go over it whenever you got time. And then we'll go through and like kind of review before we set up the photographer. That's another thing. So I had and it wouldn't print nicely, so I printed it here. But I have a listing timeline. So sometimes this is really cool when you have the listing timeline. Because you're telling them, okay, you're assuming the sale, right? Okay, so we're gonna get photos on Tuesday, okay? So we'll do the professional photos, and this is for them. You're writing down, okay, Tuesday photos at whatever, 3. Okay, so we're gonna do photos on Tuesday. Then we do the marketing and the printing. We're gonna work on the photos and all of that kind of stuff on Wednesday. Then we're gonna go live on Thursday, right? So we go live on Thursday and you're writing down for them. You're obviously assuming that they're going to sign with you. Then we're gonna prepare for the open house. You're gonna host the open house Saturday, Sunday, then you review the offers right after, right? So by giving them this timeline, and you've already got dates on here, you've assumed that they're gonna sign with you without them signing, right? And they already have it. If they're engineers, they're like, I gotta be prepared by Tuesday. Right? I gotta go through my checklist.
Since you've already scheduled the photography.
Yes, yes, yeah. So just stuff like that. And then if you make it lighthearted, a lot of people like, this is very stressful, right? So if you make it lighthearted, it doesn't seem like such a chore to do.
And I guess if you show them that and they say, oh, that's too soon, could you move it all back a week? You've
Sure.
already sold them.
Yeah,
They've already said yes.
exactly, because they already said yes. Sure, let me check my calendar. And you have your phone, you got your calendar, you check it, you put it in there. And then you're like, damn it, chocolate, you better beat it this day at this time, right? You gotta schedule it.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Anybody at home have any questions? There's a couple people online.
Nope, that was awesome. Thanks, Maria.
Thank you, Sam. Sam got his first deal by a renter, and then he's doing amazing. What is your buyer looking for right now? What's your price point, Sam?
My buyer is looking for something under 2.2 with like a 1/4 acre right now of land.
Sam, you 6 months, Sam?
My 1 year comes up in 2 months, I think.
Okay. So I gave Sam a lease. I was out showing. This lady comes up to me and she's like, hey, I'm looking for, I go, I'm so sorry. I actually am waiting for this appointment and we gotta go. However, you're looking in this area, and I remember Sam saying, oh, I work in the Carson area. I call Sam, hey, do you want a client? He's like, yeah, send it. And so I connected them and he ended up closing his deal.
Nice.
Yeah. So just be open to helping people too. I think that's huge. You know, you help people, they help you.
Yeah, it's all cool.
Yeah.
Maria's the best.
So also, so you guys know, we have a vendor resource list on the CVPP intranet site. So once you guys log into that, click on vendor resource and then it'll give you a list of different vendors. And these are all people that our agents have worked with and recommended. We don't have someone for every single category, but whatever categories are there, we have, you know, one or a few different referrals for that. So handyman, we have a few handyman in there. Hardscape people, landscape people, you know, different categories. So that's one place to start. Just build your own list of vendors.
Yeah. And, you know, like I have vendors too, and people that you've worked with in the past. I mean, you can work with anybody, it doesn't matter. Like if you know, oh, the guy that just upgraded my house was really good, then you can say, hey, dude, like, would you like be willing to go here and whatever, right? And then they become your resource.
Okay, if we don't have any more questions, we'll end it there.
Thank you.
Thank you for this.
Don't bother Maria too much. She's my mentor. Bye.
See you guys next week.
Okay, Sam. And then that slide, guys,